everyone, Amber here from Majestic. Welcome back to my channel. Today is another Marathon Sewciety sewing marathon, and I'm so excited because we are sewing up the Lauren bag. So this bag is from Lauren Mormino. I will have all her details linked in the description. So I chose to use a smooth vinyl with a canvas backing for the exterior. This is the Parrots that we carry in the shop. And I used just a plain pink vinyl for the handles. I did do the 24-inch length, which works perfect. It fits great where I can still pinch it with my elbow. So you definitely want to make sure your straps are long enough and fit what your preference is. And it has the top closure zipper, and I've used a matching Parrot zipper pull. And then inside, it features a zipper pocket, which I included our palm tree pull, and I also chose to add a slip pocket inside. That is just personal preference. You could add more or less. And then the bottom features a nice rectangular bottom. So the bag comes together very, very quickly. I really love it. It's kind of a large size, but I carry a lot of stuff, so I think it's perfect. I'm so excited to use it, especially when the warm weather gets here. And so thank you so much, Lauren, for allowing us to use your pattern and showcase it. I will have all the links in the description. They'll also include timestamps. So I hope you find the tutorial helpful and enjoy. All right, so I have all my pieces laid out. I'm going to be using this Parrot Vinyl, which is the smooth vinyl that I carry in the shop with the canvas backing. And I have interfaced it with the Profuse Stiff from Wawak. So that's going to be the exterior. For the base, I am using this vinyl that I had found at Joann's. And so I have the lining. This is the interior zipper pockets. I'm going to add a slip pocket inside. So this is going to be for the slip pocket. And then I have my two straps cut, as well as my strap connectors, 4 of them, and the zipper tabs. And now, as far as hardware, I'm going to use 4 rectangle rings. These are the thicker size that I carry in the shop, and 2 of our zipper pulls. These are the exclusive Parrots that we have and our exclusive palm tree. So I'm going to put the palm tree inside with the black and green zipper tape, and I'm going to use the purple and silver for the exterior. And now, as far as tools, I am going to be using Tex 35 thread. This is from Wizardry Stitchery. It's their fairy floss with a 9014 Microtex needle. I have my hole punch. I have some rivets here that I'm going to be using with my rivet press, some snips, a seam ripper stiletto combo. I'm using waterproof canvas and vinyl, and so I have a Teflon foot to help that go smoothly. A chalk pen, a blue water-soluble marking pen, a silver marking pen, double-sided tape, a lighter, and plenty of clips. If there's anything else I use, I'll let you know as I go along. Okay, so for our first step, we are going to prep our straps. So I'm using this vinyl. I have interfaced with 1 inch of the Profuse Stiff, just to help give some structure when this folds, and also it's not too thick, so my machine can still handle it. So we're going to do the 4-fold method, and I have marked my center, and these 2 long strips are double-sided tape. So I'm just going to peel them off. And fold it to center. And actually, it's easier for me to kind of fold away. And it wants to fold on that where I have interfaced it. So even though I have that line marked, I'm kind of just letting it go in because it is that 1 inch. And you can clip it to help fold it down, but I'm not going to clip it until I get both sides. So I'm just going to fold this other side to center. And I'm just using the Dollar Tree brand of double-sided tape. It's not super sticky, so it works great for what I need it for. And this side, because it doesn't have the interfacing, is sticking a bit better. And so then once you have them, now we are folding it onto itself. And my clips might leave a little bit of a mark, but they'll come out. I'm not worried that if it indents. The other thing is, if you have strap ends, that will be great. If not, you might want to fold these ends in. I may use some edge coat on them. I haven't decided yet. It's another added step to the process, but will make them look really nice. So this is folding up pretty well, and we're going to do this for both of our straps. And I'm just making sure that I am really lining up that edge. And just, that's 2 in a row. Okay. And so you're going to want to repeat it with the other side. The other thing that I'm going to do is I have my 4 connectors for the square rings. And for these, you can use double-sided tape, but because they're so small, I have interface down the center. And these I'm only folding. We're not doing that 4-fold method. All my hardware is 1 inch wide, so I have cut these that when I fold them both in, it will go to 1 inch. So now I'm going to take them to the machine, and I am going to top stitch down both sides of both of my straps, as well as all 4 of my connectors here. Okay, so I have just stitched down both sides, and I do not have any more strap ends, so I am going to edge coat these because when I fold them up, I just don't want to be able to see that raw edge. So I'm just using Mojo Sews. I have more in-depth tutorials for edge coating, like for example when I did the accordion wallet. But basically you are going to use a base coat, a paint, and then a top coat. And I have this roller tool which I like to use. Mojo Sew also carries a pen tool. It's really just personal preference. And so basically I'm putting probably 2 coats of this base coat, letting it dry, 1 or 2 coats of the paint, and then the top coat. And it's just this edge, so it doesn't have to be perfect. I don't need to do these connectors because I'm going to do them like a hidden connector. So that way you're not going to see those edges, only these here. And so I'm just going to set these to the side where they can dry. And once they're dry, I'll put the other coats on. And I'll link the video here as well if you want like a more in-depth tutorial for this, or check out Mojo Sew's group itself. Her products are phenomenal and I highly recommend them. That's what I'm using for the base coat and the paint. And the only reason I'm not using it for the top coat is because I just had this giant one and I don't want it to go to waste. So once this is done, I'll use that as well. All right, so now I'm going to install our hidden strap connectors. So on our exterior pieces, I have marked out the line. It gives you the measurement, or you can use the pattern piece. It may be a little hard to see. I used a silver marking pen, and I have this tool here from Carolina Little Stitches for the hidden strap connectors. So down here, you can see the shape. I had marked that out on the line and use an X-Acto knife to slice it. So here you can see where it's sliced already. So if you're doing hidden strap connectors, you want to make sure that you're using vinyl or like a raw edged material. You could just fold these in half and sew them on at the given measurement. There's a couple other types of hardware that you could buy, but I'm going to do the hidden ones. So I am going to insert one of these connectors in. So you can see on the back here. So I want to insert it maybe about like halfway or so, give or take. And so now I'm going to bring this to the sewing machine, and I'm just going to stitch across here, very close to this top lip, but on the back side. And I don't want to go across the edge, because if you go all the way and sew past this connector, you're going to see that. So basically we just want it to be like held into place, so that way we can fold this down after and you won't see that hole behind it. So I'm going to take it to the machine and stitch across, and I'm actually going to do it for both strap connectors at the same time, and for both sides. All right, so I have just sewed across. You can see on the back, it's caught the vinyl. So now I'm going to take my square ring, and this works with a D-ring too. I just had extra square, and I have where it has like that slit in the middle. So I'm going to put it over that, so that way you're not going to see it. So now it's going to go over that central bar, and we are going to tuck this down inside. And it does get a little bit tight, so it might take some wiggling to get it through. Okay, and then once you have it through, you want to, I like pulling mine as tight as possible. So this is what it's going to look like on the front. And you can see that where we had stitched it, it has created so you don't see that opening. And that little piece, that little tab, you can see it on the back here. So again, you want to make sure it is as far down as you want. And so now if I were to flip this up or flip this back, you can see that there is a little tab here. So I am going to now sew this on that tab, and that's going to hold these tabs together on the back here so they cannot be pulled out from the front. So again, I'm just kind of tucking all of this away. So I'm only sewing through that little piece here and my two sides of that connector. And you might need like a zipper foot to get close to this, whatever works best. And I'm going to do that for both sides. All right, so I have just attached both. So you can see on the back where I have caught that. So you could leave it like that. Or what I'm going to do is I am going to put some rivets here. So I have this other rivet placement guide also from Carolina Little Stitches. And so I'm just going to center it underneath and mark. I'm just going to do one rivet for each one. And then, so once I have them marked, I am going to grab my hand hole punch. All right, so I have my hand hole punch. If you have a rivet press with a hole punch, you could obviously use that. I do not have one for my rivet press. So I am just going to angle this the best that I can. Sometimes I have to pinch it to really make it fit, and actually I have it on like a wider, let me put it back to one of the narrow, so what I'm going to do is try to fold this so I can make it fit. And it's pretty thick because it's going through multiple layers of vinyl. So I also have some rivets here, and there's multiple size. So I'm gonna check the largest one first. Which kind of seems like a lot sticking out the back. So I'm actually gonna try the medium size. You don't want them to stick out too far. If it does, that's how you get rivets that warp or bend or don't hold. So actually the medium size in this is perfect. So I'm going to put that end cap on. And then I have my rivet press, and my rivet press is from Cam Snaps. But I just got the dies off of Amazon. Okay, and then I'm just going to, I already have a rivet die in here, so I'm just going to line that up, making sure that the cap fits into the bottom, and then press down. And you could also do this with a hammer, or if you have an arbor press, they both work. Okay. And you can see there's a little indent from the machine, but that will press out after a little bit. And so I'm going to do the next side with the rivet as well, and then finish up my hidden strap connectors on the other front or back main panel. All right, so I have all 4 of my hidden connectors attached. So I'm now going to set this to the side, and you want to grab your zipper pocket linings and one of your main panel linings. All right, so I have one of my main lining panels here with my center marked, and I have one of my zipper pocket linings. This is the wrong side. This is waterproof canvas, so this is the PVC side, and I have marked my center and traced on my zipper box. You can use the pattern piece, or I have one of these tools from Mormino, and it is phenomenal. It makes it so fast. So now there's a measurement given in the pattern. You're going to place this right sides together. So I have my lining right side up, my pocket right side facing down, and so we are going to measure. I'm going to do it off camera and get this in the correct spot, and then take it to the machine and stitch around the outside of this zipper box. Okay, so I have just stitched all the way around the box, and then I have drew a line down the center and made little triangles. And so now I am going to take my seam ripper and just rip a little bit along that center line, and then use my scissors to cut the rest of the way. And so when I get to the little triangle part, I want to cut as close to the corners of the box as I can without snipping into my stitch line. And the closer that you can get to that corner, those corners, the better or the flatter that this zipper pocket is going to lay. Okay, and so then once you have snipped, now you are going to pull your zipper pocket lining through. And this will make your zipper pocket lining wrong sides together with the back of this main panel. And so if you are using like a quilting cotton, or if you feel comfortable ironing waterproof canvas, you want to give this a good press, because the flatter you can get it, the better it's going to look. And so I just like to manipulate it the best I can. You can see there's a couple little like lines here, but I'm not worried about it because I mean, I cut it as close as possible. Some people don't stitch the short ends of their pocket, or if you use like a zipper overlay, it would hide this. So I'm just trying to make it as straight as possible. And now I'm going to get my zipper tape and pull. Okay, and so now I have my zipper tape, and I have cut it wider than my pocket back here. And that's just because when we seal this up, I like to catch the edges. And so I'm going to add my pull. I just put it on by hand by putting a tooth or two on the right hand side first, then putting the left hand side and trying to balance it a little bit. And then once it's balanced, I can push on, and then that's how I know that it's on evenly. And I'm going to add some double-sided tape just to help hold this in place. And I'm just putting it right at the very edges of my zipper. So that way it might be in my stitch line, hopefully not. But this is the dollar store zipper tape. So, I mean, double-sided tape. So it's not quite as sticky. And so then what we're going to do is we are going to center this behind our pocket. So if I were to flip this upside down, I want to make sure that I am centering it so my zipper tape is hanging over the edges. And that's just so when I close up my pocket, I know that my zipper will be extra secure. So if you don't want to use double-sided tape, you don't have to. Sometimes I just honestly hold it in place. But I have found that the double-sided tape helps it stay straighter. So actually, I might pull this off camera. So let me just explain what I'm going to do so it doesn't take a long time. So I'm going to center this behind. Once you have it centered and stuck how you want, make sure your zipper pull is facing the way that you want it to go. I have mine closing towards the left. And then you're going to take this to the machine and top stitch all the way around your zipper box. So I'm going to finish pulling it off the double-sided tape and centering it off camera, and I'll come back once I have stitched. You can back stitch, or you can pull your tails to the back and tie them off on the back. All right, so I have just top stitched all the way around. I'm just opening this up so I don't forget to do that later. And now on the back side, you can see that my zipper overlaps. And so now I'm going to take this other panel and put it right sides together and just match up. It might not match up quite so perfectly because when you do the zipper that way, or the zipper box, it scrunches up some of the material. Okay, so I'm just clipping all the way around. Now we need to leave this bottom open, so you can fold this back. This is about, I don't know, 1/2 inch or so, and it will just make it easier when we close up this turning funnel. And so I can do the same thing on this side so that way it is even. just turning it up a little bit. All right, so now I'm going to sew from the front, but I'm going to start with it upside down because I need to leave this bottom open. So I'm going to come down the side, fold this up, go across the top, and then back down this right-hand side, back stitching at the beginning and the end, leaving this bottom open so we can turn our bag through that later. All right, so I have just stitched around. You can see that we have left our bottom open, and where I have the extra zipper tape coming off the side, I'm just going to trim it down. And I just like this personally because now it catches the zipper on the sides here and up here. All right, and so again, if you haven't opened this, we are turning through this pocket, so go ahead and open that. And I am going to add a slip pocket in. So I have my lining, and I have cut another piece of the exterior because I want that to be a focal point inside the bag, and we'll need our other main lining piece. And so Lauren gives an option where you can kind of make another zipper pocket like this or leave the box open and it becomes a slip pocket. I'm going to make my slip pocket differently. I am going to turn it completely. So I am just clipping all four sides. I didn't interface this because again, it's inside, and then the water proof canvas with the PVC backing is definitely sturdy enough. So now I'm just going to stitch all the way around all four sides and leave a little turning opening in the bottom down here. All right, so I have just stitched all the way around and left a large turning hole, mostly because this is vinyl. And so I am just going to cut at the edges at an angle. This will help it sit better when I turn it. And I use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so it's small already. And so now I'm just going to turn it right side facing out. I might have to use a blow dryer to get it to really sit flat in the corners, but I'm going to turn it the best that I can. I really like this smooth vinyl that we carry. It does not really stay creased, so if it bends a little bit as you're turning, the creases really do come out. All right, so I'm just going to off camera really poke out these corners and all my edges, making sure that this really gets turned out nicely, especially on these corners here. So I have just finished turning this out. I have not tucked in the bottom yet, but I am going to take this to the machine and just top stitch across the top. And I'm going to do a little bit of a wider top stitch so that way I can put some rivets in after that are in that like not the seam allowance, but between the top stitch and the top of my pocket. All right, so I have top stitched across the top, and I have centered it on my other lining, and I have, because this is so thick, I'm using clips to hold the bottom kind of curled in until I top stitch. So I am going to take it to the machine and top stitch down the side along the bottom, which will close up this bottom edge, and then back up this other side over here. All right, so I have just attached my pocket. I'm going to mark some marks here and add a rivet on each side to also help hold it on. You could divide this if you want, but I think it's fine the way it is. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but I just used the exact same size as the zipper pocket lining for this pocket here. And I think it is the perfect size. So I'm going to add some rivets. All right, so I have just added the rivets onto the top of the pocket. I'm really happy with how it looks. And I'm going to set it to the side because now we are going to prepare our main top zipper. Okay, so I have my zipper cut to the measurement given, and I'm going to add my pull to it the same way that I did before by putting the teeth on one side, trying to balance it out, and then pushing it on. It's a little bit, there's like a little bit of a bubble. So if that happens, I just pull it off and do it again to try to get it as straight as possible. The left side tooth is higher than the right, and I'm right-handed, so sometimes when that happens, it makes it a little bit more tricky for me. But I just keep popping it off. All right, there we go. Now it's perfectly on straight. So I have my 2 zipper tabs cut. Because I'm using vinyl, I'm going to leave the straight edge. If you wanted to put some base coat so it will like not fray or anything, I'm just running my lighter over the edges. That way the little fuzzies disappear. And I'm just folding these in half because they're vinyl. I don't want them to be too thick. If you had like cotton woven, then definitely do a 4-fold method because you don't want that raw edge. And these tabs are a little bit bigger, which I like because that means I can start my stitch and then just trim them down later. Again, I'm just folding it directly in half and putting it on the end of my zipper. And then I'm going to take this to the machine and I'm going to top stitch along each side. So along this edge here and along the sides for both of the zipper tabs. Okay, so I have my zipper here with my tabs on both ends. I have marked on the back the center. So now I need one of my main panels. This is going to be my front main panel. I have marked the center here. And we are going to put this teeth side down. So you want to be mindful if this is your front or back, which way your zipper is closing. So mine is closing to the left here. And so I am just lining up the center of my zipper tape with the center of this panel. And we are going to take it to the machine and base stitch it in place. Something that I do to help prevent wavy zippers is when I'm clipping, I also move my zipper pull out of the way. So I do that as I'm stitching by keeping my needle in, but I also find that doing it while you're clipping also helps keep a straight zipper. Okay, so again, this is teeth side down, and my pull is closing to the left. I'm going to take this to the machine and just base stitch this in place. Okay, so here is my zipper tape basted on. And so now I need one of my linings. This is going to be my front. So I personally want the lining that has the slip pocket. And we're going to put it right side down. So your main panel and your lining are right sides together with that zipper tape sandwiched between. And you can mark your centers and match them up. I'm just lining up the top of the bag. It pretty much is, it should be, if you cut everything accurately, the same exact size. So I'm not really worried about marking the center so much. And I am going to sew this with the waterproof canvas right side down because of the sticky backing. I need to use a Teflon foot and I don't have a zipper Teflon foot. So I'm going to be sewing with this side up and I'm going to go from edge to edge, sewing at the seam allowance given, making sure that I'm using my zipper foot and moving my pull out of the way as I'm sewing. All right, so I have just stitched across. So a couple things that I'm going to do. First, I'm going to trim down these zipper tabs. That way they are even now with the top of the main panel lining. And so now I'm going to open this up. And in the instructions, Lauren has you just top stitch through the main panel. I find with waterproof canvas that this likes to see how it's already kind of like bulking up with that underneath. I personally like to stitch through my lining. So I am going to fold them wrong sides together completely back on itself. So if you do not want to top stitch to the lining, you want to leave it completely open and just top stitch through this main. And I like to open up my zipper because then I can really take my time and bend this back. I'm clipping, just kind of holding it, because that helps me keep the lining away from the zipper. So you can see right here where it's bulking. So my worry is that if I don't stitch through it, it makes it sometimes so that the zipper gets caught. The only thing is that if you are stitching through your lining and the exterior, you don't want to stitch all the way to the end. That's what gives you that funny end, like where it kind of tucks in. So I'm just going to top stitch starting at my zipper tab and ending at my other one, going across here. I'm not going all the way to the end. If you are only going through the main panel, then you can. Okay, so I have top stitched through, and you can see that I started and ended where my zipper tabs are. And this is what it looks like from the lining side. So now we're going to repeat this process, basting the zipper to our other main panel. And I just flip these down so that way they kind of stay out of my way. And this is the same exact process. So I'm basting it with my zipper teeth side down and then adding my main panel. And this I'm going to do off camera because it's the same exact process for this first side as it is for the second. Okay, so I have just zipped or top stitched along my zipper, and you want to just open it, make sure nothing is getting stuck. This is what it looks like from the lining side, and my zipper does open, nothing gets stuck on the lining, so I'm very happy about that. Okay, so now we need to add our bottom panel. If you want to add purse feet, now's the time to do it, or if you want to add a bag tag and you haven't done that yet, now is also the time. I'm not going to add either. So now the next step is I am putting my bottom panel right sides together with one of the main panels. And you can mark centers, but it should line up perfectly with that little part that sticks further down. Okay, and then now I'm going to take it to the machine and stitch along at the given seam allowance. And just be mindful that you're only going through your main panel, that you don't get your lining or the other side caught up in that. Okay, so now I have stitched at the given seam allowance. So now we're going to open up our seams. And I'm going to fold this open. And I am going to top stitch along the bottom panel at 1/8 an inch, making sure that I am catching my seam allowance, that I am folding back onto itself. So only on this side here, along where we just stitched. Okay, so I have just top stitched along that edge here. So now we're going to repeat with the other side. So I'm just holding this up so I can clip them. And for this, we're doing the same exact thing. So we're stitching at the seam allowance given, but when it comes time to top stitch, it's going to be a little bit tricky. So what you're going to want to do is open up your zipper. It might help you to kind of go through and make this tunnel. If you can't top stitch, don't stress too much. I don't think it'll be a big deal, but just to give you a heads up, because it is very hard to try to get in there. All right, so I have just top stitched on the side. It was a beast to try to get in. I actually, it's hard to tell, but there's a little knot right here. I actually sewed halfway, tied it off, and then sewed the other half, tied it off, because it was almost impossible for me to kind of turn this to get it through my machine. So now what we need to do is stitch up the sides, and we're not worrying about the bottoms yet at all. So I'm going to turn this sideways so I can, you can see the whole thing. So starting at the top here, first of all, I'm making sure that my zipper's open inside. And I am clipping this top part because I want to make sure that my edges are lined up here. So that is the first side. And then I'm going to clip all the way down the edge on both the main panel and in the lining. And we're going to sew on each side at the given seam allowance. And I'm actually going to sew a slightly larger seam allowance on the lining, just so that way my lining will be a little bit more snug. Okay, so I'm going to start here at a wider seam allowance, and then when I get to my main panels, I'm going to go back to the regular seam allowance. Make sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end, and we're going to do that for each side. Okay, so I have sewed down the side. You can see it's a little bit larger of a seam allowance on the lining compared to the main. And I actually did a second set of stitching about a 1/8 of an inch away from the first. This just helps if you're using vinyl, so it doesn't pull as much where you see your stitches. So we are going to cut this down. It will tell you the amount to trim it down to. And then I'm going to repeat the same exact step for the other side. We are not doing anything with our bottom yet. So I'm going to sew the other one off camera because it's the same exact process as this side. All right, so I have both sides sewed. Our lining bottom is still open. We're only working with our exterior bottom. So you can see my stabilizer starting to kind of pop off. I guess I didn't put as much heat. So I'm just going to ignore that for right now. But if you see that, that's what's happening. And I am sticking my fingers in and tugging to get this to line up. So we're only working with our bottom. And I'm making sure that the edge is, the seam allowance is still folded open. You can butterfly that center seam. I'm turning it one way just because I did that second line of stitching. And then making sure that I'm going all the way across. Okay, and so now you're going to take this to the machine and you're going to sew. She just suggests sewing the right side up, stitching from across where your interfacing is here. That should be your seam allowance depth, and starting at one side, finishing at the other. And for this, you can stop when you get to like the edge of the black. You don't need to keep going at all, and that will hold it in the correct spot. We're going to do that for both sides. All right, so I have just stitched down both sides of my main panel exteriors to the bottom and have trimmed it down. So now we have this large opening in the lining, and we're actually going to turn our bag through here, which is great because if you're using a stiffer material like I am, it will make it easier to turn through that large openings. And with the vinyl, any creases on this type of smooth vinyl does come out. I might actually have to do this with a blow dryer.
Step.
I'm trying to get as much of it on camera as I can. But sometimes it's harder for me to do that. It's easier for me to like turn it on my lap, or I can put more muscle into it. Alright, so it's getting there. But I'm going to do the rest off cameras just because it's easier for me. And if I need to hit it with heat, I can do that as well. Alright, so I have just finished turning the bag. You definitely want to make sure that you are sticking your hands inside. I like to stick my hand up through the lining to really poke out everything. So once you're happy with it all being poked out, then we need to close up our lining. And in order to do this, we left our zipper pocket lining open. So I am going to reach in through my zipper pocket and grab the two lining main panels. And by bringing that up through this pocket, it is going to make it so that way we can seal it up and you won't see any stitching. It is a little bit of work, especially because I am using the waterproof canvas, which is thicker. And basically you are going to line up your lining. This is the one that has like the longer edge with the other lining. And we're not doing the sides yet. You only need to worry about the bottoms. So for me, this is kind of, it's not going to come out completely straight. So I am clipping it as I go, understanding that this may curl. And as I'm sewing, I will straighten it out. So like I said, it does take a little bit of muscle if you are using material that is thicker. All right, so this is the bottom. So now I'm going to take this to the machine and stitch across at the seam allowance that is given in the pattern. All right, so now that I have that across, now you are just going to sew up the sides. And you can go ahead and just kind of tug. And again, it's a little bit tricky just of how it is laying, like coming up through the pocket and the materials I'm using. But it all should match up. And so I'm going to do that for both sides and then sew across each side. All right, so I have just sewed up the sides. So now you're going to tuck that back into your zipper pocket and press it down into your lining to make sure that everything fits nicely. And I'm using black on black, so it's a little bit hard to see. And I do need to take a second and really like push out the edges. So now our last step is our actual zipper pocket lining. So now I'm pulling that up through, and we have kind of already tucked it down in when we first stitched the sides. So when I pull at the sides, it should kind of fold in on itself. It's, again, the waterproof canvas, so it's being a little bit stiff, so I'm just kind of helping it, folding it in. And this is the pocket, so I'm not too worried if it's not exactly even. And if you want, you could hand close this. I'm just going to stitch it even though I'm using the variegated thread. It's in the pocket, so you're not really going to see it. So now I'm going to stitch that and close up our pocket. All right, so now that our zipper pocket is sewed up, I can tuck that back inside. And push everything out. And now our last step is we just need to add our handles. All right, so for our last step, we just have to attach our handles. So I have painted the edges and put the top coat. The top coat is still drying. I put it on really thick. It's dry to touch, but it's still a little bit white here, so it still needs to dry more, but it's enough that I can put the handles on. So now you have to decide which way you want them. I like having my fold to the inside. And so I'm going to take this and then fold it back. I would say that's probably about an inch, and clips them into place. And I personally don't like putting only rivets because I just don't trust rivets that much. So I am going to do rivets and top stitching. So I'm going to take this to the machine and do one row of top stitching across underneath as close to that bar as possible, and then put a rivet on as well, and do that for both sides. All right, so I have just stitched across and added rivets. And this is just because I personally just don't trust rivets regardless of brand or whatever. I load up my bag, so having that stitching just really makes me feel better. And so that completes our Lauren bag. All right, so we have just finished up our Lauren bag. I hope you enjoyed the video. I will have links in the description to where to find this pattern, as well as Lauren's website and social media. Also, this is part of the Marathon Sewciety, which I'm so proud to be a member of, and I hope that you are enjoying all the tutorials today. And I will have a link in the description as well to the rest of the tutorials. So I hope you love the pattern. If you do, please consider subscribing or giving me a thumbs up. It helps my channel grow, and I appreciate it so much. Bye.